dialogue, design, animation, and annotation. NPCs fill the worlds of our favorite video games in a multitude of ways. I happen to like people watching in games, and I also like virtual photography, aka the use of in-game photo modes and camera tools to frame and compose interesting shots. So at the intersection of those two things, I've been photographing NPCs as my subjects of interest for some time now. I talk to them when I can, follow them around, and I imagine what their lives might be like. I pay extra attention to their clothing, character design, behavior patterns that I think might go unnoticed by the average player. And here's what I learned. This is my third swing around through Marvel's New York, and it feels a bit like a homecoming. My NPCs of Gaming Chronicles kicked off with Spider-Man 2018, after all. In that video, I praised Insomniac for including a thoughtful and truly expansive pool of NPCs, true to the spirit of New York, and for improving that even further with Spider-Man Miles Morales. I'm glad to say that attention to diversity still holds true in this one. Although the models aren't perfect, they are a lot more detailed now, especially in their faces and hair. Note the little mole on this pedestrian's cheek. You can see some of the wrinkles, creases, and skin folds that can appear on civilians' faces, which age up some of these NPCs a little bit. Here, watch. You can even see a 5 o'clock shadow or two, or a pair of small mustache hairs under the nose that one might miss while shaving. There's quite a few awful shaves, to be honest. We see more variation in their possible body shapes and heights now too. Civilians also show up using wheelchairs, though these characters do just sit in place and aren't animated to actually navigate in them. Still, it's a nice touch. Over the course of this video, you'll notice Insomniac has thought about diversity in a fairly holistic sense. Not always perfectly, but at the very least, respectably. As you can see here, their New Yorkers are racially and ethnically varied, but the cool thing is, this isn't limited to just their appearances. If you've spent any amount of time in NYC, you've heard people chattering in different languages with their loved ones. The ambient dialogue in Spider-Man 2 is no different. Most of it is in English, of course.
Turns out my apartment's soundproofed extremely well. Oh, hey Spider-Man. Sorry, we're having a conversation.
But have a look at the subtitles here. Thank you to some brilliant folks for helping translate these. Across the games, I was able to find Spanish.
Roxxon recibió lo que se merecía. Esos cabrones nunca debieron haber traído ese veneno nuform a la ciudad.
Italian.
Spider-Man! E ti ho visto in TV! Oh, ciao! No, sono in vacanza. Non posso fare il tuo turno domani. Non ci sono. Non sono nemmeno in Italia.
Excuse me, sir. Do you know where I
Scusa,
can
non
find
posso
some nearest-
proprio aiutarti. Senti, Domenico è sempre a caccia di turni extra. Ok, ciao!
German.
Dass der Museum ist auf der Upper West Side oder auf der Upper East Side? Warum hat er alle unsere Dateien auf dem USB-Stick? Das ist nicht gut. Egal. That's what you had to say. Wo sind Sie jetzt? So.
Pardon me.
Was soll das heißen? Du weißt nicht?
I
Er hat den Restaurant vergessen? Ich bin gerade 3 Mal da weg. Wie konnte das passieren?
Mandarin.
忘买新颜料了。我敢说，这里的鸽子真的越来越多了。这些大楼估值一半都空了，不如给人住。
Korean.
외계인이 인류를 위협하는데 도움도 안 되는 슈퍼히어로는 잘만 돌아다니네.
Japanese.
全部の橋を渡ってみたくってさ、そこまで行く時間はもうないんだよね。あ、靴なら丈夫なの履いてる。これはマシな方の靴だって。
ボタンが咲いてればここも見違えるのに。あれ？どこ行っちゃった？
Russian.
Может, сдать праздновать мое повышение черной икрой?
And Farsi.
بابا جون نگران نباش هنوز دارم درس میخونم با لیلی.
I should say though that multiple of my translators brought up that the grammar or accents in some of these felt off. For the longer exchange in Italian, one translator remarked grammar and pronunciation were almost perfect, but the accent didn't sound like that of a native Italian speaker's. For the one in German, all 3 translators commented that the voice actor didn't sound too familiar with the language. The grammar was confusing, and they all had slightly different interpretations of what was happening. As for the lines in Mandarin, the translator mentioned that her first translation was a best guess, as some of the pronunciation sounded unclear, and that the third quote was missing an important preposition. Again, I deeply appreciate everyone who helped me out with interpreting this section, and have linked some fellow creators who are part of the effort below in the description. These weren't the only quotes I noticed in these languages, but I did feel they show a nice, curated range of what the game is trying to do with these lines. Next, we move from language to religion. There's a great audio clip of the senior art director, Jacinda Chu, praising her team and admiring the hijabs and yarmulkes that NPCs could be seen wearing in Spider-Man 2018. Spider-Man 2 features Orthodox Jewish NPCs again, sporting knitted yarmulkes, as you can see here. Here are some close-ups. There seems to be a sizable Hasidic population in these larger hats and fedoras too, which is particularly apt now that the map is expanded to include Brooklyn. I praised the hijabs in the previous games for actually having cool and intricate patterns. It was a rare display of attention to hijabi fashion in a AAA blockbuster game. The pattern even rung true to the kinds I'd seen growing up in a Muslim-majority country. Hijabi NPCs aren't procedurally generated now, which is a bit disappointing, but there is one unique NPC who wears the same hijab from the previous games. She's named Mina, and she's a photographer. Here's a closer look at her outfit too. I'm especially a fan of the Spider-Man strap she has on her camera. I'll circle back to Mina. Something else I'd mentioned in my first video was that Insomniac had an opportunity to take this representation further with Spider-Man 2, especially with the addition of Queens, which has a sizable Muslim population. They could add more patterns, including the most commonly seen flat colors, or other styles of wearing the garment or covering hair. In fact, this didn't have to be restricted to NPCs intended to be Muslim either. Head coverings are common across other religions and cultures, and especially among black women. They're a common sight around NYC. Believe it or not, this has manifested in the sequel, just not in the way I'd expected. Firstly, there's a display of beautifully patterned turbans and headscarves on sale at one of the markets. They're even worn by the mannequins in varied, fashionable ways. Check them out. Secondly, we do see women out in the world in turbans now. Some Muslim women opt to wear turbans in lieu of hijabs, and Sikh women can sport them too, though it's more common for Sikh men. These turbans can also take different colors in the game. Male NPCs can be seen in these larger turbans as well. Here's some close-ups. I also spotted at least one police officer with one on, posed in front of a suspect's building with his partner. In this economy, I can't talk religion without talking consumer brands.
Bada bing.
As part of Spider-Man 2's cross-collaboration with Adidas, you can spot NPCs wearing these branded Adidas hats. The logo really stands out, and it looks great. The main tie-in involves real sneakers inspired by the IP, and Miles having actual Adidas shoes in-game. The branded attire on NPCs feels realer and is comparatively subtle as far as product placement goes. But notice that it's more than just the hats. You can spot recognizable Adidas sneakers too, as well as backpacks. Check out the straps here. As other players have pointed out, they also have an in-game store near Times Square. Theirs isn't the only cross-promotion though. Marvel has also teamed with Korean-American brand Harvest, who makes bags and accessories. An article on Sony Interactive's website explains that Jacinda Chu wanted to implement these brands to show diversity within communities. She points out that Genki's hat and backpack were designed in collaboration with Harvest to show he chooses brands close to his own values. His hat is part of their Nothing Changes If Nothing Changes lineup, meant to combat anti-Asian hate. The collaboration also includes eyewear company Warby Parker. Although some of our main characters are seen sporting their glasses, generic NPCs seem to be wearing different brands. Here's a close-up of the logos on their glasses. I have some shots of the bags they can carry too. NPC apparel includes fictional brands and sports teams too. You'll see a lot of pedestrians in sports jerseys like this one, and a wide range of cool jackets, with the game taking place during East Coast fall. From puffer jackets to winter parkas with cool hoods to trench coats straight out of a noir film. NPC props include cell phones, of course, but also touchscreen tablets for work, drinks in different shapes and colors, seeds for gardening and bird feeding, and umbrellas if it's raining particularly hard, which is a carryover from the past games. Depending on where you're people watching, you'll see different props and actions too, and you'll hear different, more specific ambient dialogue. Around Coney Island, for instance, NPCs are seen in these funky light-up glasses and hats, or they'll be carrying these large stuffed dolls they've won as prizes.
This place always takes me back to my childhood.
Here's some vignettes around the area, like this guy being filmed doing the robot.
Say a little. More like Lady Liberty levels of rust to shake off. Yeah, I know bookings are great courses. I grew up here.
These air hockey and skee ball matches that go seemingly forever?
Good. I thought you said you go easy on me.
And of course, thrills and chills on the various rides.
Coney might be the best place to people watch.
True.
You might notice a lot of the attractions are named after Marvel characters. It reminds me of the approach Eidos Montreal's Guardians of the Galaxy took with Easter eggs. Drop by any construction areas, and you'll find NPCs here are in the appropriate uniforms. And their dialogue is more specific to their work too, with many of them speaking into walkie-talkies. You can even find some of the crew on lunch break, in which cases they'll be holding these sandwiches. Here's some more close-ups. If you revisit the Coney Island roller coaster after the action set piece that happens there, you can find construction crew working on getting it fixed up. Speaking of in-game events, they also momentarily changed the state of Marvel's New York. After the Sandman mission, for instance, NPCs will have dust and sand all over their clothes. You can see EMTs helping them out and offering them advice. And if you look closely, you'll notice that even their phones have gotten sand all over them. Return to the scene of a fight after certain missions, and you'll find police treating it like a crime scene for a limited time. They'll chat while scouring over the evidence, and even cordon off the premises from curious spectators. Swing by Midtown after the Times Square fight, and you'll find scaffolding while crew members work to get things back up. My favorite situational encounter, though, is from Act 3. With most of Manhattan overrun by enemies and vacated by civilians, you can find some checkpoints on the outskirts.
New York does not go down without a fight.
You might spot doctors and medical experts there, working with evacuated civilians, helping them get patched up. Randomized events include car crashes in the middle of the road,
What are you all just standing around looking at? Can someone call the police? I can't call my phone is broken.
drivers going off on one another,
Something like, I don't have no money. I don't have any money. What are we gonna do? I mean,
police stakeouts, and more. Like, look out for this fella, peddling ice cold water, which is a quintessential big city vignette.
Bottled water, ice cold. Help you get to your job. Help you get home.
There's a couple on a first date, and they'll get a little jumpy if you hover around near them.
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, I was so afraid when I told you I was really into knitting that you would...
No, I love knitting. Wait, hold on. There's somebody staring at us.
That is awkward.
Why is he just...
Just don't look at him.
In fact, there are quite a few funny reactions to Spider-Man trying to people watch. Here's the look.
You're being real weird right now, Spider-Man. I'm leaving. Don't follow me.
Lord, give me the confidence of a mediocre Spider-Man.
The locals might find you weird, but there's at least one pair of tourists who'll be starstruck.
Oh, don't look.
Is that him? Wow, he looks like he works out. No. Man,
First you saw that Broadway celebrity the other day, now this. Oh, it's crazy.
this is why it's so great, Vicky.
There are these 4 characters on a double date, having a pretty animated conversation, and I love that as a group of 4, they talk over each other, or reinforce each other with overlapping words.
I gotta tell you,
Bust out my body brown, patch.
I'm starting to turn into one of those concerts in the afternoon kind of people.
I mean, I will
I'm
say, it's
sorry.
like, it takes a lot out of you being up at 1 in the morning. It's not like when you were younger. I'm saying.
It's not. It's like,
How are you gonna go through a week like that?
right? I mean, this is like a once every few months.
Me and Dayton were at that age. We're like a nice jazz club at like 6 p.m.
That's like
Okay,
old
you
people
know,
stuff,
There's a
right?
natural, intimate rhythm to it. And I noticed a lot of observational humor too. I don't need to tell you about the nannies having a full-blown conversation about childcare and petroleum jelly.
Make sure when you change the diapers that this is key, okay? So this will change your life. Use some of that petroleum jelly on the
I'm so
backside.
sorry, we're putting gasoline on these children?
No, not gasoline, petroleum jelly.
Which went viral earlier back when the game released. There's a great Wired piece on it by Megan Faroukmanish. Fun fact, although babies don't appear physically out in the open world, you can hear baby noises if you stand around the baby carriages peppered around. Any NPCs placed near them will usually be chatting about something related to raising kids too.
So, Friday night, come in the room, I have a sombrero on and a tutu, right? Feels like that, right?
Okay.
I mean, I just
Well,
can't. And
guess who was wrong? That is in fact not her thing, right?
Well, I mean, the woman just had a baby 3 months ago.
Is this common to be into one thing and then all of a sudden you're like,
Well, I'll tell you,
Let me write that down because
after
that's
my
good. Hold on.
second baby, my tastes changed.
Now, if some of these scenes feel like improv comedy to you, there's a reason for that. Yeah, I love the specificity and, honestly, haphazard awkwardness of the dialogue in Spider-Man 2. While some AAA studios are considering AI use for their barks and ambient dialogue, I appreciate Insomniac taking a far more human approach. One that's still imperfect and awkward, but in a way that feels realer than most games. They invited voice actors to come in and improvise some chatter. They improv'd some fun exchanges either based on prompts, like 2 nannies talking about babies, or as responses to the events that take place over the course of the game, like the Sandman attack that takes place early on, or the Black Cat mission after you chase her through the city. The downside is that not every line is synced up, nor can it be given the volume of barks in here, but this does result in some incidental hilarity. I've heard a person say, "I hate loud noises that wake me in the middle of the night." Their friend says, "I disagree." In addition, the VAs improvised some walla, or crowd murmurs for the streets of NYC. There's a great behind-the-scenes clip from senior audio director Jerry Berlangieri showing how the recording process looked in the studio.
Eddie's supposed to meet us over by the fountain.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know.
Yeah. You should definitely,
Cool, right? Berlangieri also states outright that they work to include a diverse area of accents and languages, which I appreciate. In certain corners, you can find couples waltzing in each other's arms, giggling to themselves as they rock back and forth by an overlook. It's quite touching. You can hear them flirting too.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you. I don't even feel cold.
I've seen this one in parts of Central Park and also some rooftops, which are even set up date night style. There are some rooftop parties and restaurants where you can spot chefs stirring pots in the background. Just don't look too close. I also like this one loop of a character shaking sand out of their shoes, which I found on a children's sandlot. In Spider-Man Miles Morales, Insomniac had shuffled in some new outdoor activities on account of the snow. You could find NPCs ice skating, or making snow angels, for instance. Ow. At the same time, they had filtered out the picnickers and yoga sessions, but with the parks clear, they're back in full force here. Civilians can also be seen doing stretches and feeding pigeons, as with last time. In the original, running through these pigeons used to scare them away, which was fun, but left the NPC throwing seeds at empty space. Miles Morales' solution had been to simply scare away some of them, but not all. Spider-Man 2's solution? They just have them fly back after a while. I don't know. I think of myself as pretty good about noticing random events, but there were some truly hidden ones around Spider-Man 2 that I learned about after the fact. And I appreciate that. Other players have pointed out this group yoga session, which Spidey can actually join in on. I was fortunate enough to have my partner sitting with me when I did it, because she pointed out an additional detail within it. One of the NPCs stretching with you seems to have less experience than her friend. The tall man in the middle follows the instructor perfectly, but watch the lady in pink. She eyeballs her friend to copy his movements, stumbles on one foot between poses, and bends her knees when they stretch down to touch their toes, which is usually a no-no for this exercise.
Is this job always so stressful? Yoga's done wonders for my mental health.
Alongside the friendly neighborhood side quests, it all goes back to the game encouraging you to spend time with people on the ground, even if that time is silly sometimes. Most of the time. That silliness is, at least, true to life. In general, Spider-Man 2 has more environmental detail than its predecessors. NPCs can also be seen indoors now if you peek through the windows, and there are more room types and activities for them to do in there as well. I loved this for the most part. Really makes you feel like Spider-Man. You can see offices, libraries, living rooms, kitchens, and bedrooms, both adults and children's, etc. But I do think something is lost because it's simply not feasible to be specific about the buildings. That's something the empty rooms from the original were able to get away with more cleanly. Let me explain. As cool as it is to see clients in waiting rooms in office buildings, it's a bit stranger to see them also in Avengers Tower. I don't know, that feels like a place that works better when you can't see into it. NPCs can be spotted walking out of buildings now as well, which is awesome and helps NYC feel more like a living, breathing city. But again, there's a trade-off in the more suburban areas where sometimes they don't have a place to go. I genuinely like this kind of bug though. It's unobtrusive and funny, even if unintentionally. The intent is immersion, and the larger game wears that intent on its sleeves. Some other great environmental details. The fictional movies that were playing in theaters in Spider-Man 2018 are the ones that are stocked as DVDs in the DVD stores in this one. Storefronts buzz with activity. You can peek into clothing stores and thrift stores with old shirts and computer parts. And bookstores where you even see books stocked outside in magazine racks, separated by hardcovers and indie zines. Cafes, diners, and restaurants will have menus in them. And you can, naturally, see some classic delis and convenience stores too. Passers-by near a sports game might stop to lean on the chain link fence, maybe spectate through the gaps. If you recall the memes about out-of-bounds boat people in the first game, well, they look much cleaner now, out sailing as you swing between the islands. Finally, the top floors of the Empire State Building are a near-perfect recreation, with tourists and visitors all gazing out at the view below. You've even got those binoculars that can be found up there. Track down other tourist attractions, like a view of the Staten Island Ferry or the Brooklyn Bridge, and you'll also find NPCs snapping photos of them. They'll also take pictures of any wreckage that transpires during the events of the story. The moments when you play as Peter or Miles outside of costume are peppered with fun interactions too. I really wish we got to spend more time at the EMF, Peter's new workplace, which features all kinds of scientific research going on. Water cooler dialogue, NPCs on important calls, and a great tangent about office marker use.
The problem is these red markers. Why do they dry out faster than the others?
Because you overuse them? Why do you have to make everything red?
Focus. So, P2X. Deployment and logistics.
That's not the problem.
Then what is it?
It's the effectiveness at scale. There's not enough surplus energy to replace fossil fuels.
Okay. So the problem is effectiveness at scale.
Well, that's one of our problems.
I don't make everything red.
You may have noticed the Baxter Building, home to the Fantastic Four, out in the city, but here, you can also overhear one of Peter's co-workers make a reference to it, and to a doctor who may or may not be Reed Richards.
Wow, what if I needed a higher resolution spectrometer?
Do you?
I mean, we would get better analysis, better data.
Did you have a brand in mind?
I heard that doctor has a prototype inside the Baxter Building, but I don't suppose that's
I'll
an
make
option.
an appointment for you.
Cool. Wow. Guess this is what it's like working for an Osborn.
Insomniac's created a beautiful setting here, and I felt it could have been a cool, explorable home base of sorts, like the Feast Shelter was in 2018. Unfortunately, all of your subsequent downtime here is in cutscenes or after hours, when there aren't other characters around. At least you can still peek into it from outside. You do also get to see Craven's goons, the hunters, up close and personal at a party. We're seeing a different side of them here, seeing how they enjoy their downtime. They're also outfitted in more casual clothes that really highlight their physique and musculature. Their battle uniforms, with all the gauntlets and shields and weapons sheathed in every crevice, with armor pads clad tight over their shoulders, tends to obscure these details and just how buff they are. Although they're chilling out and chatting here,
did you see he had the tusks mounted upstairs?
Yes, he is proud of that kill.
Aye, he should be.
To get in and out of Wakanda undetected? Only Craven could achieve this.
One of many stories on these walls.
for these guys, chilling out does not preclude getting into brawls and spectating a good fight. I like how this one dude casually twirls his swords. But all in all, I also really feel for the caterers. Insomniac's cooked up an exquisitely detailed kitchen here too. The food they're prepping looks richly textured and in-car edible. You can observe the chefs bouncing between various tasks and stations.
How much longer on those starters?
And if you look around, you'll notice a careful attention to process.
We're slammed right now!
They went way harder on these animations than they needed to, and it's all complemented by crisp sound mixing. One of the chefs is cutting carrots.
Tickets cleared, on to the next.
Each slice fully animated, mind you, and depositing pieces into a bowl on the side.
We're in the weeds here. Orders on deck.
One of them is washing dishes, and even sprays with a pull-out faucet.
Tickets on the tap.
Before stowing away cleaned plates on a pile nearby.
Cleaning out the pants!
Miles gets to attend a school fair with his fellow Brooklyn Visions Academy classmates, who advertise the various clubs and organizations around campus, as well as local businesses. Check out the baked goods and brochures here. I do wish the dialogue around BVA and Empire State University were more specific to student life, but the clothes and set design, at least, are. The BVA campus looks particularly great. It even manages to be quite specific about its indoor spaces. He also attends a big event at the park, featuring old friends from his game. Have a look at some of the going-ons around here. Folks playing the guitar, the hand drums, and more. I appreciate the fried foods they've got set up, and these slick shirts some of the shopkeepers are peddling. If you see Teo while wearing the cat backpack costume, you might also notice that Spider Cat won't load in your backpack. Because he's spending time with Teo here. Finally, there's a celebratory event for Harlem's music scene at the museum, full of NPCs admiring exhibits. And partying it up. I confess, the encounter with Mina did make me feel seen in a strange way. NPC photography is a bit more important in Spider-Man 2 than in other games. There are multiple quest lines dedicated to documenting unique vignettes throughout New York. Unlike the original, in which you were tasked with photographing landmarks, you're now encouraged to people watch and shift your focus to the day-to-day lives of NPCs instead. The photo ops you're assigned include basketball games on open courts, with cycle animations, tennis matches, which have the same loop as 2018's, chess matches with timers on the side. This person clearly does not know the rules of chess. What are you doing?
Yeah, okay, so I know the white ones can only go diagonally,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, or not the white ones, the pawns.
Yeah.
The little ones, the little white ones.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
Okay, so I go first.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. All right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, okay, I think I'm
Okay, yeah, okay.
So anyway.
And the various club activities at Miles' school. These markers will lead you to some cool, unique NPCs too, who I'll leave unspoiled. The one I have to shout out is the ESU timekeeper with multiple wristwatches on his arm, a reference to the NYU legend who used to do the same to keep students on time. This was a contribution of Insomniac writer and NYU alum Akshay Ajit. The other assignments are great too, but throughout this video I've tried to focus on the vignettes the game won't point you to. Now, though, I'm going to pull us back for the bigger picture. Look out for light spoilers, particularly regarding MJ's storyline in this last segment. My initial inspiration for this project had been Humans of New York, so it had only felt right to start with Spider-Man 2018 way back when. That lens is now folded into the very fabric of Spider-Man 2, which even features a critical story beat about MJ falling out of love with traditional publishing, and just growing interested in telling the stories of everyday New Yorkers.
What about you? In this ongoing series, I will be talking with people throughout the city, exploring our new behaviors, new routines, new thoughts and feelings. I hope you'll join me on this journey.
Moreover, some of the game's most moving side quests have nothing to do with supervillains. Unlike, say, the Arkham games, which give you more villains to juggle, the side quests here focus on spending time with average civilians and tending to mundane tasks, on making the time to listen to their stories and reflecting on the meaningfulness of that time. Here is the game's overarching thesis, and of one of the comics behind it, Kraven's Last Hunt. Spider-Man derives strength from his humanity. It's what makes his power greater than the symbiotes, greater than Kraven the Hunters. Giving us these chances to just talk with, well, these humans of New York, helps make that point that much more salient. I do wish the base game featured more side quests and variety, but the ones it does are as perfect for the story's themes as can be. It doesn't surprise me that so many folks are talking about Howard's side quest. He's a returning figure from the previous games who tells an incredibly moving story about his past, about love, about layoffs, about loss, about himself, but also about the city, about the complicated relationships we have with the places we call home, whether by choice or circumstance. Speaking with IGN, creative director Brian Intihar credited designer Brian Matheson for coming up with the quest during a game jam. It doesn't surprise me folks were impacted by the quest with the missing grandfather, which culminates with a simple conversation on a bench. Again, about a mind, body, and city changing with time. And about the comforts found in what doesn't. These moments are the kinds I long for in my favorite Spider-Man stories. Human ones. Ones that show Peter, show Miles what it's like to carry great responsibility without great power.
For me, the thing I'm really proud of is those little interactions that lead to some fun little stories that show another side of what Pete and Miles do on a day-to-day basis.
Insomniac continues to be among the best of the best with photo modes here. The custom lighting they introduced with Miles Morales is back, and I really love how much more dimensionality it can bring out, especially for character models like these. The visual effects slider lets you retain particle effects in photo mode, so you can freeze them at just the right time. It's great if you want to catch a lightning bolt in the background, for instance. The action figure mode is also one of the most creative things I've ever seen in a photo mode, and it opened a door for me to include Spidey in my NPC shots in a small, fun-sized way. For more advanced tips, Shutterbugs need only check out the PlayStation blog post Gillen McAllister and Insomniac's community manager Aaron Jason Espinoza have put together. I've linked it in the description below. One of the biggest takeaways for me was to make use of the game speed modifier Insomniac has included. It's not only great for accessibility, but also for slowing down animations so you can take them all in. So you can time your shots just right. There's a lot of seemingly invisible design work here.
Hey, come back! Oh my, did he die?
But I think we can try to bring some of it to light. As has been the custom for PS Studios, Insomniac has also released an art blast on ArtStation, where you're able to see a lot of the concepts and environmental details up close, as well as take note of the individual artists behind them. In her foreword, Jacinda Chu reiterates that the team didn't use AI tools. All of this is the result of hard work by hundreds of impassioned artists, both internal and external. Environmental artists are assigned their own sections of the city, which they research and bring to life with curated props and buildings. Or relevant graffiti and murals, put together by the graphic artists. Lighting artists set the horizon ablaze and infuse so much ambiance into the open world, giving Marvel's New York its own living character arc as it warps over the course of the game, with all times of day directed beautifully by Ed Ruiz. While the specifics regarding what each of their partners did remains to be seen, Insomniac worked with some regulars they've teamed with before. I'm putting some of the names up here. It's worth noting 3Lateral, whose gene splicer tool the team has made use of in the past to generate NPC faces. Jacinda Chu also mentions that their costumes and renders are designed with an eye for fabric and texture, largely because they have such a massive photo mode community. This brings me to my last point. Mina is a photographer. Her idol isn't Spider-Man though, he's just her subject. Her idol is some guy named Peter Parker, an ex-employee of the Daily Bugle. It's no secret that Insomniac has been particularly on the pulse of the virtual photography community. They put more into their photo modes than others, but also signal boost and promote the captures fans come up with after the fact. I can't help but read this particular moment with Mina as a love letter to that community.
Ready? Set? Jump! Go, Spidey!
That love is reciprocated too. Insomniac swept the Fourth Focus's 2023 Virtual Photography Awards, winning Best Photo Mode, Best Subject for the Spider-Man, Best Lighting, and Best Community Support. Espinosa deserves a lot of the credit for that last one, as an avid VP enthusiast himself who posts a lot of photo prompts for players to engage with. I appreciate that there's some narrative weight behind this exercise now too though, that Robbie's photo mode assignments are so important to what the game has to say about its setting. Peter's instincts as a photographer are important to what it has to say about our characters spending time on the street level. Not just the player, the characters. The game tells me that the stories of average citizens are as important as what's in the news, that the micro matters as much as the macro. It tells me that power and responsibility matter, but so does kicking back and connecting. So does keeping the neighborhood friendly. Hey, thanks so much for watching that. This video is actually part of a series in which I look at NPCs in even more games that pique my interest. I also make video essays about games, movies, and all that good stuff. So if you like my work, consider subscribing. I've linked my Ko-Fi below too. It's an optional tip jar if you want to throw a sandwich or coffee my way or something. Last but not least, I've included links to the social media pages where I post my photos, down below in the description. Juxtaposed with my photos, you might find some short stories I've come up with about the various NPCs I've looked at. So, enjoy? Thank you again for sticking around, and until next time, remember that every stranger on the street's got a story, and every story can only get stranger.